C'est en français ou en anglais, votre talk? OK. Okay, everybody, let's get ready for the next talk. I'm sure you know who those guys are. So I don't think I need to make any intro for them. So make some noise for Patrick and Kendra.
Hello, thank you for coming to our TED Talk that we put together about 4 minutes ago and have not practiced at all, so we're just going to wing it. So with this being Back to the Future themed this year, first of all, I'm a huge fan of the movie. Everybody else in here, show of hands? Actually, hold on. Show of hands, who has not watched any of the Back to the Future movies? Get out. I'm just kidding. Totally kidding. You really should invest some time, though. They're fantastic. But with this being Back to the Future themed this year, I really wanted to try and come up with a talk that had something to do with it. So Enchantment Under the Sea, if you don't know, is the dance where the mom and dad meet and fall in love, and, the rest is history. So we changed it to Enchantment Under the Sea, and you'll find out why here in just a minute. No.
Yeah, it's happening. It's your talk. Cheers.
Oh. All right.
All right, let's try that slide. All right, who are we?
I feel like this photo is fairly self-explanatory about who we are as people, but most of you already know us in some way, shape, or form already. Maybe you haven't seen this side of us, but this is pretty much what we do when we're at home. We go to Walmart, we buy onesies, and then for this particular day, we did like a random mixology challenge between the two of us, and I'm pretty sure I won.
No.
Okay. Well, anyways, on the professional side, so obviously, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Kendra Cooley. I've been in the security space for about 12 years now. Primarily over the last 5-6 years, I've been working on building programs for startups. And so a lot of what we're going to talk about today, I have direct experience in reporting to all of these people that we're going to talk about in some way, shape, or form. So.
Yeah, on my side, sometimes I do ACFA stuff, but it's just a part of it. No, for real, my background is more red team, so I did pen tests for 10 years or so. I built internal red team offensive security teams at a few companies, and since 2 years, I lead the blue side of things at DoorDash for application security and cloud security teams. So pretty vocal about this subject too, and how security should be kind of made in corporation, I guess.
Yep. And this is also our first talk that we're ever doing together. So
yeah, we're planning for a talk together for what, like?
Just a couple years.
3 years.
Just a couple. All right, let's go. Are you ready? Yes. Woo! Okay, so as the title kind of alludes to, we're talking about sea level and, well, not SEA level, sea level. And where you report in an organization as a security program and how it can impact either positively or negatively kind of the outcomes. So, next slide. All right. But before we get started, and as you can see here, we have some prizes. So, participation will be rewarded. Go ahead. You can ask the question if you want.
Yes. So we want you to vote on.
Well,
what?
One at a time. This
Sure.
is why we practice.
I know.
Come on. He didn't show up for a rehearsal.
No.
You want me to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. So first, by show of hands, how many of you are satisfied with where your security program lies in the company that you're with?
It's definitely the majority. 3 hands up.
Really? You're not happy with reporting to like the CFO or the CEO? Only 3 of you? Only 3 of you?
Oh,
All right. I saw a hand kind of in the back. Where does your security program report? It's you. Yeah, you're turned around. Yeah, you. Yep. You report into the CIO. Okay. What industry are you in? IRA? Higher ed. Okay, awesome. And roughly how many employees? Total. Okay, now I want to know the size of the security team. Jeez,
Ouch.
Pete, that hurts. Oh, uh, surely, awesome. Okay, now since only 3 of you raised your hand for the first question, I better see a whole lot more hands for this one. Olivia, you want to go? It's our little assistant back there. Can you just raise your hand so she knows where to take your thing? Okay, perfect. Okay, so now by a show of hands, how many of you are dissatisfied with where security fits in your org? Hand way up in the back there, shot right up immediately. I think you're passionate. Why are you dissatisfied? Or where do you report, I guess, to start? We don't have to bare your soul, but where do you? CIO? Ish? Okay. You're perfect. You're perfect. Okay. Industry? Okay. Perfect. And do you know roughly how many employees? Okay, so government-ish, 2,000-ish. Okay, cool. You win a prize. All right, cool. Moving on.
All right. Are we thinking we're going in the right or wrong direction? So.
Oh, me? Please.
Yeah.
Advance the slide.
Okay. Sure.
All right, I can see I'm just running the show here.
No,
He's basically just
you're fine.
You're just changing the slides today.
No,
All
but
right, cool. So we just heard 2 different sides, right? Mm-hmm. So either folks are satisfied with where their security program lays in the organization or not. We're going to go through various levels of employees to talk about like the pros and cons of where these folks or where security programs fit in the organization. Is there a right or wrong? That's not really what we're here to decide today. I mean,
there's no bad answer at all.
Yeah. There's various reasons why security programs lie in various parts of the organization, as you can see here. So it could be the industry, it could be the size, it could be their strategic initiatives, it could be even something as crazy as culture that's kind of driving where the security program lays. So right or wrong, I don't know, but hopefully today you'll just understand the pros and cons of each.
Yeah, and I think one of the thing you said often is there's no one size fit all. So never happens.
Yeah. Hold on before you advance the slide, though. This one is not for a prize, but who can tell me what those are, the flames? Anybody?
Oh, it's when it goes to 80 miles per hour.
88 miles per hour! Yeah, and the car disappears and there's just flames remain. Yeah, okay. I just didn't want you guys to think I was just starting a fire for no reason.
Want to switch that way?
Yeah, you can go.
All right. So, why? Why are we doing this talk today? Well, first thing, the industry as a whole is missing a lot of consistency. There's nothing saying what we're supposed to do. Obviously, and you'll see later, like there's no specific ways, like we just say, there's no right or good answers. And depending where we put the security organization, department inside a company, it can impact everything. Anything, well, where it is will depend what the results would be. Some will be really happy, some won't, like we just saw for sure. And one of the most complex part is being aligned with the board, the direction, people on top of you, on where you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to do, and getting right objective and making a security program that makes sense for the specific business, right?
Yep, absolutely. And the couple of things that we have listed here are definitely impacted depending on where you place security in your organization. So for instance, if you bury security way down deep in engineering, what do you think that's going to do to the rest of the organization when you come knocking on their door and you say, hey, you need to install that patch? They're going to be like, you're in engineering, I'm not listening to you. right? We probably all have experienced that in some way, shape, or form. And really, you know, having that kind of oversight for a security program where you sit a little closer to the top, you can really help to influence behavior and culture a lot better. So those are some of the things we're going to talk about today.
All right. So what do we want? And that's a hard question, I guess. Nobody wants the same thing here. All right, let's go and do it. The main part is having support at the top. When we ask for budget, it counts whatever it is. Usually you need approval at the top. So that's really a hard one. Always depend on the budget also. And I think many people in the room try to get budgets, try to get stuff done. And we're always, almost always limited. And that falls back onto where this organization is set up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you, just looking at this list of 4 things here, if I had this in every organization that I've built security programs at, I would have been super, super successful, right? But you don't really get all of these things without a little bit of fighting. Hey, what?
Kids management live on stage.
My goodness. Parenting live. Amazing, amazing. All right, cool.
All right, so let's find a location to put our security teams. One of the main points, well, it helps if it's in the right location to have the right motivation of the team, I guess.
A little bit.
A
All
little
right.
bit.
So story time.
Yeah.
So the last couple of companies that I have worked for brought me in as employee number 1 for their security program, and they both had kind of vastly different reasons as to why they wanted to start a security program. One of them in particular had started to go down the enterprise route and was very interested in getting that, what report? What do you think? SOC 2 report, right? So it was a very like checkbox driven security program. And in that instance, I was shoved way down deep in engineering. I bet you can guess how fun that was. Super fun.
Yeah, I mean, engineering definitely managed SOC 2. That's how that works, right?
Yeah, and they love it. They love it too. Whereas the second organization that I joined, it came from, I think, a little better place. They really realized that the industry that they were in, the types of data that they had, they wanted to make sure that they were doing right by their customers and actually protecting it. And so it was a little bit easier at the start to come in and figure out what they wanted from a security program versus just what's our checklist of SOC 2 requirements and how quickly can we get them in so that we can get this big enterprise customer.
But I mean, we all seen it in the news, right? Who gets the most money for security? It's not the organization, it's not where it's placed, it's when the breach happened. That's where the money comes from. When you look bad in the news, or you're losing more money than it would have cost to build something. And that one, I think, is the number one thing. The other part, well, we always talk insurance. Security is kind of the insurance one, but it's also a requirement for some, because now we're seeing cybersecurity insurance. So they'll say, well, instead of SOC 2, they'll say, well, we have to put cybersecurity insurance, but they have those requirements saying you have to do A, B, C in place so we can insure you. Otherwise, if something happened, well, we won't pay you. So all those kind of board motivation would give you a budget, a team, or something to make security happen.
Yeah. Similarly with funding. So if you're a smaller startup and you're looking to get some VC capital, to help build your dream, they want to make sure that they're making a solid investment. And they want to make sure that the cash that they're handing over to you is, one, going to be taken care of, but also your company's not going to fold tomorrow because of a breach or something due to negligence.
All right. So just for everyone understanding, this is kind of the regular.
Yeah, I mean, basically, for the purpose of this talk, this is the kind of organization that we're talking about here, okay? So board of directors at the top, which the CEO reports into. This is fairly traditional across most organizations. May look a little different where you are, but you have either CTO or CIO. Sometimes those are two separate people, but for simplicity's sake, we're just going to lump them into one. CFO, obviously Chief Financial Officer, CRO, revenue, so they're really primarily responsible for sales. And then Chief Legal, General Counsel, those are kind of like the main buckets. And then underneath here, we obviously have HR, compliance, engineering, and product. That third level is going to become important later in the talk when we talk about burying programs in the manure.
Yeah, pretty deep. All right, so when we talk about chief, legal, compliance, which actually that's where I am right now. I'm under legal counsel, which I think is pretty interesting because you're obviously independent of IT. So the issue, well, we'll see more issues, but the issue is also, well, you're not into IT, so it's kind of both good and bad at the same time, right? But at the other points, if we go on it.
Yeah. We're not all Vanessa here and tech gurus and lawyers
Yeah.
at the same time, so she is a unicorn. Let's just point that out.
But yeah, multiple pros and cons.
Yeah, absolutely. So I also have reported directly to a general counsel in one of my roles for a brief period of time. And similarly to Patrick, it was really nice to have that separation, right? So like you're not deeply embedded in anything IT, so there's more oversight capabilities and you know, kind of less like, or more segregation of duties, I guess you could say. One great thing about lawyers and you know people who run legal departments is they're pretty risk-minded. So they're really taking everything that you say and kind of weighing it on like a pros and cons list to try and figure out how they can mitigate as much risk for the company as possible, which is very beneficial to us as security professionals because it makes implementing you know that new tool or that new thing a little bit easier. We can just say, the GC said we have to do this, so do it.
But on the other side, even though you're separated, you don't have IT pushing right or wrong direction, or they're non-technical. They don't understand by default what security is. They understand compliance, they understand the laws, maybe privacy. But when you talk about vulnerabilities, you talk about bug bounties, whatever it is, well, you cannot say those words. It doesn't mean anything to them. So having a CISO or someone that reports into it that understand what's happening and how to translate it in business, which is, I guess, the biggest issue we have in our industry, talking business. That's one of the biggest issue there. Well, we're talking compliance, so obviously many companies do security for what? Checking a nice box. And when you get brought in a company and they won't tell you this, but you figure out that you've joined for checking a box, it's pretty hard to do security in this company.
Awesome. Yeah, don't move forward yet because we missed a thing.
Yeah,
And then as far as like the bureaucratic processes go, lawyers really love process. Vanessa, is that true? Love process-ish? Yeah, a little bit. Like following the rules, I think that's for sure, right? So you can kind of get wrapped up in different processes or establishing a lot of processes, which is helpful, but at the end of the day could very much slow down your progress on building your program or progressing your program. So by a show of hands, how many people here, the security programs in the places that you work, report into a chief legal officer, general counsel, something of that nature? Somebody lie. I have prizes. Does that ring true for anyone in here that wants a prize? All right, lie to me.
Yeah, we definitely do that.
Okay, cool. What industry?
We work with casinos and slot machines, so we have to report to our legal team when things go wrong.
Awesome.
Report to people to make sure things are legally going well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just, perfect. Great lie. Vanessa, do you have something? Okay.
About 90% of them are in regulatory, like health or fintech or something like that. There's a reason why they would work with legal.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, regulatory means a lot. All the different laws they have to follow, especially in the healthcare industry, for sure. Vanessa, I'm going to give him this, even though he lied. Is that okay? I'll get you later. It's big. Yeah, it's in the back. Yeah.
Loading dock,
It
really
was
big.
it was like barking earlier. I don't know. It's weird.
Yes, all right. Let's not miss it this time. All right, Chief Financial Officer. So being under the budget. Anyone is under the money?
I'd like to be. Anybody in here have a security program that reports into a CFO? Seems odd, right? A little bit? Not odd? Anybody have any thoughts, comments on this? I have stuff I want to give away. You guys are too quiet. Wake up. All right, cool. Well, I'll tell a story then. I'll get a prize. So one of my last roles, I also reported into the CFO for a very, very brief period of time. I would say I got tremendously lucky in that role, though, because unlike what it says on the next slide, he actually was pretty tech savvy and like kind of with it from a security and like privacy perspective. So I really lucked out. One of the biggest pluses to reporting into the CFO is he's got the purse strings, right? So when you go to talk about why you need additional headcount or why you need this tool, he's got the budget sitting right in front of him. He knows how much money is there to spend. Now, that doesn't make those conversations any easier because you do have to really show the ROI, return on investment to those folks, but it is a perk of being that closely tied to someone with a budget.
Yeah, I mean, it's direct access to the money, but proving that you need it is harder, technically, because you need to prove it much more.
Yeah. This is why I maintain the budget in our house, so that I don't have to ask. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. And of course, they're also, similarly to legal folks, very risk-minded as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a default of finance. It's not a legal one, but they have to manage the business so it doesn't go down. Same as legal, non-technical, could be a bit more complex because they don't even have the legal side of part. It's really just budget. So yes, they're risk averse for maybe fraud sometime, but not on the technical side at all. Privatization of security, well, usually it's not by default. So having the finance person doing the budget, I don't think usually it will be a priority for security, except if you're the best friend with this person, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely in my experience in reporting to the CFO, obviously they are responsible for the entire organization, making sure that all the dollars and cents add up and everything is taken care of the way that it should be. And so you're not always prioritized, but in some ways that can also be a pro because you have a little bit more autonomy and ability to kind of build the program the way you want.
Yes, let's move to the CTO or CIO, which was one of my latest role. And I think there was a talk today. I don't know if Cheryl's in the room.
She's right there.
Oh, she's right there. Sorry, there's too much light. Hi. I don't know if anyone saw her talk. I won't say much more, but that was under a CIO, and I guess that's what it is. Anyone report to CIO, CTO? Oh, much more. Deep into engineering. That's the right location, everyone. That's nice. All right, keep the hands up. Let's choose someone. Right there? So, which kind of company? Financials.
Okay.
The size?
Ooh,
that's
really small.
Cool.
CIO or CTO? Or mix? It's the same, right? In a company that small?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Do you have a big security team, an 100 person, or you're the guy? I mean, 4%, technically, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Now, are you part-time because you do other things in the company and like okay, so security is just kind of a piece of your job. Okay. Okay,
Right.
Perfect. Well, you get one of these. Hold on, because we didn't get to give one away for one of the last ones. So who knows what that thing is called? Who said that? Yeah, you get a treat. Olivia, blue shirt right there, baby. Right there.
Well, that one was
Yeah.
the most important one. Technical.
Yeah, so this one is really helpful when you do report into a CTO or a CIO. Generally, you're speaking the same language. They understand the technical challenges from a security perspective, which can be really, really helpful. And then also, similarly to what you just said, when you're embedded in a CIO or a CTO org, you generally have other technical resources that you can tap in the event of an incident or a problem. So even if you're a smaller team, you kind of get that like instant magnification of resources and people that you can lean on for support.
On the other side, their business is usually to build something. Like if we talk about VP of engineering or something, the sentence we say is feature first. So they want to build, they want to deliver fast. And when we say fast, we usually cut in the triangle, we cut security because it's slowing us down in some ways, even though it's not supposed to. But it seems like we're slowing them down or blocking them. The idea, and we can talk later, but the idea is we always are supposed to work as a service to make things better and just recommend them stuff, but that's not the vision that most have, for sure. Yeah, I think someone said the first one earlier, conflict of interest.
Yeah.
That one is, I think that's the most complex part, because they're technically doing everything vulnerability and reporting on it, but they're responsible on it, they're all sides on it, yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's go deeper.
Very deep. All right, so starting with the CTO, CIO example right off the bat, I mentioned that when I joined one of my last organizations, I was buried way down deep in engineering. And really the sole focus of that role was to help get them to their SOC 2, which became brutally painful as you're basically trying to climb up to get to the top to say, hey, this is super important, and then push the message down that this really is an organization-wide engagement, and we really need the partnership across all areas of the business.
Yeah, I mean, it's the last point there, but you have to fight your way from down there under this car and go back up to the board to get things approved, and then go back down and make things in place, which is double the job, much more connection to make. It's pretty hard.
Yeah. So what we just looked at with all of the roles, the CIO, CTO, the CFO, what were the other ones? Chief legal. Were those the only ones we talked about? Was there another one? CRO, we didn't really touch on, but actually, we're not going to talk about the CRO, but does anybody in here report up through like a sales organization from a security standpoint, just out of curiosity?
That would be weird.
That would be strange. All right, I was just curious. Not that there's been a whole lot of hand-raising participation in this room, but anyway, I'll just take that as a no. But anyways, those roles, at least, if security is reporting into them, you're still somewhat close to the top, to the decision makers, right? What I'm talking about here, what we're talking about here, is when you're buried another layer deep. So if you remember that org chart that we looked at, it's that third layer, but you're reporting into those. So if you think about like security being below engineering or below human resources or below IT, just think about the challenges there to make an impact across an organization when you're that far down in the org.
You have to skip level, which could be really badly seen in an organization. And if you don't skip the level, well, you have to convince 3 person on top of you. So.
Yeah. So don't you touch that. Again, this is why rehearsals are important. I'm just kidding. Totally kidding. But yeah. So then you're also missing transparency into the big company initiatives. That's a huge one. Or you might find out about something that's really pressing to the business later, and maybe you're working on something else. And this new idea or new thing that is a top priority for the business takes you in a completely different direction. So you're kind of like playing telephone a lot of the times, getting the information down to you, which can be pretty disastrous to your program. Competing objectives. You want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean those two. Competing objective. You have 2 teams doing the same thing. They're doing the same thing with different objectives, different metrics, reporting to different people. And one of the examples that I actually have recently, I have 2 teams that build login page. One wants to build a page, the other one wants to do something else. Security says do it correctly, then you have to fight between 2 teams. Team A says this is Team B jobs. Team B says it's Team A jobs, and then it's months of efforts. And then we talk about communication breakdown or silos. And I don't know if there's many people here working in banks or insurance companies. This is their default pattern, usually under IT. And then you have security in each sub-team. So the director of whatever third layer is having multiple sub-layers, and all of them have to push up to figure out how to do things. So it's pretty complex to do security if you need to convince the director of 20 developer teams, but then your competing teams, like, I don't know, CorpSec, needs to also talk to those 20, and then the compliance have to talk to everyone. It's painful. It costs money.
Yeah. Another thing that you often see when security teams get buried super deep in the organization is that their scope becomes very, very limited. So for me, for example, the example I've been using, when I got hired into engineering, while granted, they really wanted their SOC 2, but what engineering started to see me as was a dedicated resource for everything that they wanted. However, I had this huge project that I was trying to undertake with getting through the SOC 2, and so it became a little bit complicated very quickly because engineering saw me as a dedicated resource to them, but yet my duties were to get the entire organization to a place where they could pass a SOC 2 audit. And so as the organization continued to mature, it really, really, really started to cause a lot of pain points, and eventually we were moved out of engineering.
Yeah, and similar stories being in a specific VP section, security tries to go up to push to everyone, but then IT, engineering, whatever it is, they see security as their own team. They're technical people, so they ask security teams to do everything security, including fixing the bugs, going in the code, patching everything, while we are overloaded and don't have time to do it. So the perspective is different. They think the same. They're employees because you're an engineer, so technically you're a developer, so do the stuff for us. But you're CorpSec, you're doing I don't know, YubiKeys and stuff like this, so it doesn't match at all. Yeah, pretty interesting.
Yep, absolutely. I don't think this is one of the prize ones, but is this what you all see in the organizations that you're currently working for? Are you super buried down in kind of sub-teams, or
Yes, no?
more high-level reporting structures? All right, super lucky.
All right, Chief Executive Officer.
I chose this image because without the car, the movie would not exist. All right, cool. You guys tracking all these images?
Pretty deep. All right, so reporting into the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think no one reports into the CEO. Anyone? One?
Woo!
Wow, more than some others. All right. First one there.
Yeah, we're a pretty small company, so our president has multiple hats, including CEO, and our cybersecurity team the director.
Awesome. On how big of a company? 35? And what kind of type of company? Okay.
Oh, nice.
That's super cool. But yeah, it fits for a startup. I don't think it's going to last until 1,000 people, but yeah, right? Awesome. All right.
Hopefully you'll get like a chief security officer or CISO, and you don't get pushed under engineering instead. Okay.
All right, those is really good pros, though.
Yeah, there are a lot of really good pros to being that high up in the organization. First and foremost, you're looked at as being part of the C-suite. So whomever is leading your program, likely has a seat at the table for those very, very important conversations. And you have the ear of the person who's generally making most of the decisions for the company, though guided by legal and other advisors. But it's much easier to get that information kind of right from the source when you're reporting to the CEO.
On the other side, well, try to get a meeting with them. That's something. Then we need to talk about revenue. Their main point is to drive revenue, a bit as the same as IT. They want to build stuff. Well, they want more money on it. They're obviously the one that decide everything or can veto stuff. Mm-hmm. Obviously, influence, like you said. Even though you're super close to the board, you're not on it directly, but the influence is massive. So it's in the con side, but at the same time, you still have a tiny access that could influence the board to go the direction you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not a mistake that decision maker is on both the pro and the con side here, okay? There are definitely a lot of pros to being connected to the decision maker, but there are also a lot of cons to being connected to that sole decision maker, especially if that's how things are in your organization, because if you have a difference of opinion, guess who's going to win that one? But ultimately, who's accountable for the security of the company? CEO, board, yep, all good.
Not us.
This is a
Yep.
smart group.
And then the best photo. I think that represents most board. No, okay. Sorry. Well, reporting directly to the board while sitting at the board mostly. Any board person here?
Anybody here who has like a security leader who sits on the board or is like regularly in touch with their board members? Vanessa? Oh, hold on. We got one over here.
Yes. What kind of company? Okay. Big one, small one? Nice.
Okay.
We want something, right?
Awesome. Okay, cool.
That's great. You want to give that one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sure. All right, go for it.
All right, here I go.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have that direct access to the board, there are definitely a lot of perks, right? So generally, a board of directors is kind of like a checks and balances system a little bit to keep the CEO in line. At least that's how I've always looked at it. And if you have someone who's on your security team who has a seat at that table, however irregular those meetings may be, like quarterly, I think is fairly common, they're going to get a lot of really juicy information about the direction of the company and the priorities of the company very early, so that the roadmap of security can change and they can, be a little bit more agile, as opposed to waiting until that information funnels all the way down that org chart.
But at the same time, well, like we saw, one or two ends doesn't happen much, but one of the best situations. You don't have to be exactly on the board, but if you talk to them, like you said, is one of the best thing. And I think that's one of the things that the objective of the security team or the leader of security team should go for. That's definitely one of the best thing. Obviously, at the board level, they're not there for the technical discussion. So you really have to be able to translate correctly and talk business. Like I said, one of our main industry issue. And obviously, they're not into the day-to-day operation. So they don't know what's technically happening down, but they got the results, the metrics up. So if your people under doesn't report up correctly, especially in terms of security, it's hard to get the head count, the budget, and everything. And you don't sit at the board meeting and drop technical metrics. You have to talk about threats and high-level stuff. And it's really hard because you have to understand their language and how they understand, the business technically. So they're also going for the revenue, investing more money. So if security is not about doing this, and you don't reflect this kind of information, it's going to be a long road for sure.
Yeah. And kind of on the flip side of that, I have guidance listed as a pro here. I've been really fortunate in some situations where I have had direct access to the board of directors when building these programs, and some of the folks that sit on that board are incredibly security savvy, and they will tell you their opinions and what they have seen works and doesn't work, which can be a bit of an ego popper at times, but but it's all for the better of the company.
All right, so what's coming up? This news is pretty interesting. What was the date on that one? Was it pretty
This
recent?
one was from 2022, but this is
Still.
constantly in the news.
I mean, it's still happening, but the direction is to go this way. We're seeing, especially with major breach, that companies, there's no people that are responsible for what's happening officially. We saw one CEO go in prison or have a sentence recently, but that's mostly it. There's no official way of securing the data without laws and everything. So without a seat at the board, and we're technically always down at the bottom, and the direction always needs to come from the board. So,
Yeah.
change are coming.
Yeah,
but
the ultimate accountability is really important here. So we're seeing a lot of changes happening where there are more laws and regulations, especially for publicly traded companies, where you have to have someone who's security minded, or at least has the title, sitting on your board to provide that guidance and direction. But, and I know this is the quietest group ever, maybe Vanessa can chime in, but I'm curious, you know, does anyone see changes like this coming for non-publicly traded companies? Or like, what do you think that could mean for, I'm just asking you directly, Vanessa, at this point. What do you think, you know, these mandates could mean for smaller companies who have to have that security representation?
Yeah, I mean, we're one of these small companies, so,
Mhm.
and we have the time to think about it. So we have our CTO reports to our CISO, who reports to an executive committee, so nothing gets done unless it's done securely.
Mhm.
So that was where we're going with that. But if we look at the future, like look at what's going on with the privacy officer. Every single one of my clients, except maybe two, are paying their CFO, and then the CFO is like, what's that? Because like you know compliance stuff.
Yep.
So it's just piling up a lot more role on the same person. It's not exactly what they want, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
So how do you train people to actually be in a boardroom, talk the right way,
Mhm.
and get something out of it? It doesn't matter if you just put somebody in the room. That's not enough.
Exactly.
You need training. So I think we have a bigger problem than just passing some laws to force people to name just anyone.
Yep, yep, absolutely. There needs to be a lot more guidance and direction around, you know, certifications or training that these people have to have, years of experience, you know, tangible things that they can point to as saying, yes, I am a security professional.
It's fine with Law 25. Their name of the owners on the website. Security owners. That's it. It's fixing everything.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I know that was a lot of content, kind of talking about all of these big wigs in various companies and things like that. So just to kind of wrap everything up before we go.
Yeah, I mean, doing something is better than nothing, right? Most companies, we complain security is bad, wrong location, but at least they're trying. Laws are putting in place, it's getting better, but you know, it's a long game, I guess. That's not a finished one. The idea is really to get more included into the company, sharing more, going up the board, getting more visible, getting more metrics. So, yeah.
Yep, absolutely. It's really about, you know, regardless of where you are in the organization, I think having that alignment and understanding what the true purpose and role of security is for that organization, it has to come from the top. So sure, if, you know, all they want you doing is working under engineering or working under IT and focusing on making sure our internal assets are secure or ensuring that the product that we're delivering to our customers is secure, great, but let's make sure that there's proper alignment around that so that the security team isn't out there trying to build a compliance program or really focus on corporate security and making sure that, you know, employees aren't clicking links.
And changing location of security into a team. I think you got that one a few times.
Yeah, this is painful. This is painful. So granted, like a lot of the companies that I've been a part of over the last few years were smaller startups. So as the security program grew, as the company continued to grow and scale, the needs of the business changed. However, you have to be careful of this because if you're constantly taking your security organization and moving it from engineering to legal to CFO, oh, that might have been a very recent path for me. It's painful and it kind of shows like a little bit of a deprioritization and you feel a bit like a bad penny that's getting passed around that no one wants. So you do have to be careful and cautious of that, but ultimately, you know, understanding the strategic vision of the company and what makes the most sense because, again, as Patrick said at the beginning, security is not a one-size-fits-all.
Yeah, I mean, you sum it all.
I'm great.
I know. That's why this talk is there. Yeah, I mean, the whole point is to make connection in the company and selling security up, making partnership. I mean, whatever the level you are, management, team, director, whatever it is, the best way to push security in the company is making friends. And saying no is not a part of it. Obviously, we had the discussion at Polar for this. But yeah, you need to find a way to find out who owns the real responsibility in the company. And it's not always the org chart. And you can learn that someone might be more influential than someone else. And that's the way to go. Yeah.
Yes, security has to know the business better than the business knows itself, that's for sure.
Yep.
All right, I guess that's everything. So we can open it up for questions if anybody has any. Really happy that we got to be Johnny and team's opening act this year. Thanks for showing up, guys.
Thanks.
Awesome, awesome. So any questions before we release you? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
What's your recommendation for SMBs that doesn't have security?
So the question is, what is the recommendation for SMBs without a security team? At the minimum, oh, she want to talk so bad.
Oh.
Sweet.
No, please,
No, you wait.
please.
No, at a minimum, you
No,
need
you.
someone to talk to about security. Doesn't have to be an employee, which, like we just said, it's better to have something than nothing. But I think you have some thoughts.
Yeah, just a couple. So this is what I've been doing for the last few years, and the things that I have learned over the last couple of companies that I've been at is that it is remarkably painful if you're joining a company as the first security hire, let's say. It's remarkably painful if there is not alignment across the organization for what they want security to do. So first and foremost, if you're interviewing for a position, for instance, that's looking to build a security program, ask them what their objectives are. And if they don't have an answer for you, run screaming, like as fast as you possibly can.
Every interview, the answer is different. That's a great one, too.
Yeah, that's also terrifying. So if you're getting kind of like mixed signals from everybody. Now, small businesses that do not have like dedicated security staff, obviously there are a lot of tools and things like that that you can leverage to help build your security program. But the bottom line is the sooner you're thinking about security as you're growing and scaling your business, the better it's going to be in the long run. So.
I mean, that's shifting left, technically. You put security by default and privacy by default, it costs nothing. Like if you look at application security, fixing a bug in production that is complex to fix can take weeks, will lose money, will maybe involve PR, legal, it's terrible. You have a developer that put it in place, it's one line of code. It's a minute. Building a program, if you start a company and say we should think about security, if you think about privacy, do we have to use all this data, yes or no? You're just thinking of it. It's part of thinking through the architecture, just everything that you're doing. Just ask the question. You don't need a team to do this. You just need to be conscious about it.
Yeah, build that culture early for sure. I mean, make sure employees know that security is a shared responsibility. There's a saying, something about like it's easier to steer a small boat than a big boat. So think about it early for sure. Any other questions?
How hard is it to convince the C-suite to invest in security?
When you're already working there or when you're trying to get?
As a consultant.
Have they been breached? Easy.
That's helpful.
It really depends. I think a lot of the things that I have done in working with small businesses that are thinking about investing in security, I try not to use the word breach, honestly. Like that fear tactic that is kind of spread throughout our industry is not that effective. So get to know the business, understand what the regulatory and compliance requirements are for them, and help them understand what the bottom line is if they don't meet those. Like those could be company-ending issues in a lot of ways. And trust me, the CEOs do not care for that.
Yeah, and that's the compliance side. On the other side, if you explain to them that security is a quality, just merge those two words together. If you do security, you'll be better than the guy next to you that doesn't do it. If you sell something that is secure by default or privacy by default, you're better than the rest of the market. And most market, you'll be pretty fast. So it's a selling point to be at a minimum. Yeah.
Yep, definitely a competitive advantage for sure. Good question. Anybody else?
There's no GIF, that's why.
No more gifts. And
All
no
right.
one's. I will probably just bust Johnny's bubble, I'm guessing you probably didn't bring gifts for people, did you? We were giving out gifts. See, look, I just put the pressure on him, so now you guys can get some gifts. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us. This was super fun. Enjoy the rest of Hackfest.
Thanks all.